The .45 caliber Beretta Cougar lies on the desk. Safety on, 7 in the clip, 1 round chambered. Water beads roll down the outside of a faded 32-ounce plastic party cup. What the heck? Zoned out again? This is how Shelley's story starts. We'll hear the whole story today live on RestoringHopeLive.com. Thank you very much for joining us today on this special edition of Restoring Hope Live. Not only do we have an excellent author, and I'm not going to say this very well, but most of the time authors can't speak. There's a reason why they're good authors. They can write, but they can't speak. And one of the reasons that I look forward to having Shelley today, our guest on, is because she can also speak. And there's a whole bunch of people out there that know her right now that are going, boy, can she speak. Boy, can she talk. And she's got a great story. Lila Stafford, we call her Coco because she's Grandma Coco. She's home with her 2-month-old baby granddaughter today, but she is on the phone with us live from her home. How you doing, Lila?
Okay, but my baby is 4 months old.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Yeah.
All right, and I want to introduce you to Shelley Poerio. Did I say that right, Shelley?
Yes, you did. Thanks.
Poerio. Shelley is the author of the book called Rebalancing the Addictive Mind, Beating Addiction with Exercise and Nutrition. And I welcome both of you ladies to the show. And Shelley, Lila has been particularly looking forward to this program and has gone through your book extensively because she's very much into nutrition, as one of her hurts, habits, and hang-ups is food addiction. Lila, you can tell us a little bit about that if you want.
Okay. Well, I love the book, but I'm not into the exercise part yet. I only exercise a couple times a week. I do have a personal trainer, but I'm trying to get my attitude around that so I can love it. But I have I've been sober 28 years, but I went from drinking to just actually I've had an eating disorder always. But I was hooked on sugar, salt, and fat, those 3 things. And you know, when I was young, I mean, I was always real thin when I was little, but my father would give me $100 if I'd go a year without eating potato chips. So I would do that 1 year, and the next year I'd go a year without pop, or the other year I'd go without candy. So even as a young lady, I knew that there was some problem, but we didn't know exactly what it was. And then when I went my senior year in high school, I gained some weight, probably about what I weigh now. But it was, I was thinner than most people, but it was the first time I'd ever really been heavy in my mind. So I had a distorted idea of what fat was. And then I went to college and gained, I think, 50 pounds my first year. Went to school weighing 125 and came home at Thanksgiving weighing 172. And from that moment on, it was just a fight against this fat, but never, you know, I would either starve myself or gorge myself, one of the two. And once I quit drinking, then that was my main thing, was this food addiction. And it's just been in the last 4 months that I basically have just, I read this book called Sugar, Salt, and Fat, and I said I need to get rid of that kind of food, all processed foods, but it took me a long time to get to this place because I didn't want to give it up. But finally I thought, I am making myself miserable. Every time I eat those kind of foods, I have this ritual where then I get mad at myself and then I starve myself, round and round and round. So finally I just thought, I'm tired of torturing myself, because once I start eating that food with sugar in it or whatever, I can't stop my mind. It just keeps going around and around and around, and then the shame, the guilt, all that. So the last 4 months I've done without all that, and it is totally, and taken some, I worked with a nutritionist and take some L-glutamine, anyway, just different some different things I put in these protein drinks just totally changed my life. I feel better. I don't feel like I have these racing thoughts about food all the time. In fact, I very rarely think about food other than just I need it just to live life. But I'm not living for the food like I used to.
Shelley, how often do you hear a story like Lila's?
Well, I experienced it myself, and I hear it a lot. I hear it a lot in a lot of what she just said and how she was stating it. It sounded a lot like addiction, like the problems that we have with substances. When we think about things like alcohol, cocaine, heroin, pills, etc., it's those same kind of thought processes, the same obsession, the preoccupation, then the shame, the guilt, and the self-punishment.
That's exactly what happened with me. Yeah, and I'm an addiction counselor, and I thought, this is, I can tell people what to do with their other addictions, and it's like, it triggers the same part of my brain, and makes it so I can't stop once I start. So
I have the same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I mentioned that yesterday in one of the groups I was in, that because they still have some Thanksgiving food floating around, and they're offering cookies and brownies and these kinds of things, and I just said, thank you, but, one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. And that's, of course, the saying that they say in AA about drinking, but it's the same thing with the fats and the sweets.
Yes. I can't have one. I know that. I'm convinced of that now, so I don't even try to fool myself. I can't take one cookie. And there are people that can, but I'm not one of them. And that's the same with alcohol. There are people that can take one drink and leave it, but I'm not one of those people.
Well, that's exactly right. I have exactly the same situation, and I hear that a lot with the patients in in counseling. And one thing that I find that helps me is understanding basically that the sugars, the fats, they trigger the same addictive pathways in the brain.
Yes.
That the substances do. And so once I think we wrap our head around that a little bit, it makes it a little easier to be self-aware of the behaviors, identify, because it's not a psychoactive substance, right? Sugar or fat. You don't think of it that way. It's okay. I'm not drinking. I'm not using. Yet they're causing the same kinds of feelings of remorse, shame, guilt. And, of course, it's not healthy either.
Yeah, yeah.
Shelley Poerio, and I say that slow because I don't want to get her name wrong, is my guest. She's in the western part of the United States today. Lila Stafford, our co-host on RestoringHopeLive.com, is at home today because she's caring for her 4-month-old grandchild. And I'm J. Michael McCoy, and I'm in studio, and you're listening to Restoring Hope Live. The book is called Rebalancing the Addictive Mind: Beating Addiction with Exercise and Nutrition. Now, Shelley, tell me, at what age did you get sober?
At age 40, September 5th, 2001.
All right. And how long had you been using?
Since my teens, really. That's when I first, tried substances, really. And, so since my teens. So it was over 20 years.
And give me an idea, just a general idea of what your alcohol of choice was, what your drug of choice was, the typical user circle that you were in.
Yeah, well, in grade school and high school, I was a star athlete, good student, all of that, and I would say that probably about the time that I had a knee injury, my junior year in high school, I had a little extra free time on my hands, and wasn't afraid of getting caught or punished or anything like that relative to sports. So I started drinking just, beer primarily at football games and things like that. Experimented with marijuana, experimented with cocaine. Unfortunately found that I really, really, really liked cocaine and methamphetamine. And though it wasn't that easy to get and it was very expensive, I definitely wanted more, and that really immediately became a preoccupation for me.
Where was your family during this time? Were they aware of your usage? Were they sublime to it? Were they in denial of it?
No, I don't. They didn't really know. Our family was kind of, we could have or share a glass of wine at Easter or something like that, or at Christmas when we were in our teens. That was fine. That was never a problem. So I don't think that they really assumed that I was doing anything more than that. My grades were good. My sports were good. So they had no reason to think that I was doing anything untoward.
When did they figure it out?
Well, I think they probably started realizing it was a problem. Well, see, I'd moved away. I'd taken a lot of jobs where I traveled around the country and lived in New York and in Detroit for a while and Baltimore. And so I wasn't in California where my family is. And so I don't think they saw that, and I think that I presented as fairly normal when I came home for the holidays or special occasions. So until I moved back in the early 90s to California, I think that's the time that they started realizing, something's not quite right here. What's going on?
Shelley Poerio is our guest. Now, that's spelled Poerio, but it's pronounced Poerio. Shelley is her first name, and her book is Rebalancing the Addictive Mind. She is a certified counselor. One of the things that she does that I find very interesting, and I want to talk about this later when we've got more time, but you're open for business on holidays.
Well, I'm not quite sure I understand the question.
Well, if a client of yours needs some help on Christmas Eve because they're depressed because their family isn't around or they've been rejected by their family, as their counselor, you're more than willing to meet with them on what would be considered a blacked out day, a holiday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I enjoy working, actually, the holidays. I worked Thanksgiving. I'll be working Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day this year. And I do those as a contract counselor at Monte Vista Hospital here in Las Vegas, or at Solutions Recovery's closed on the holidays generally, but at Monte Vista Hospital. And I take great pleasure from doing that.
And who obviously I don't want names, Shelley, but who comes in for counseling on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, besides the guy who lost his football game that day?
Generally, the people who come in, they've just sort of hit their bottom at that point, or their families have brought them in. Or sometimes they've run out of substances, run out of money, run out of places to go.
And thank heaven somebody like you is there. Now, Lila, do you ever work Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day? You've got patients up there.
We have patients, but I don't work there, but I get calls all the time around holidays. So it's not like I'm working for pay, but I'm working because people are hurt. Yeah,
and the calls you get are, oh my gosh, my Uncle Bob's here and he's acting like an idiot. What am I supposed to do with him? He's drunk again.
Either that, or I'm alone this Christmas and feeling sorry for myself. That kind of thing.
Yeah, so, both of them.
Yeah, and my table, our Thanksgiving table, this year we went out, but usually my Thanksgiving table or my Christmas table is full of people that, don't have anybody. And I know that they're going to come to a crisis on that day, and I want to have my table full of all kinds of people like that.
We're going to take our first break, and when we come back, I want to read a few paragraphs from Shelley's book, and it's called Rebalancing the Addictive Mind, Beating Addiction with Exercise and Nutrition. And that doesn't mean that she is not involved in a 12-step program, because she is. She's been sober now 14 years. Oh, just 13 years. Right? 13?
A little over 13, yeah.
That's awesome. That's excellent. Congratulations.
Almost 13 and a quarter years.
Yeah, that's awesome. And her sobriety date is September 5th, 2001. And we'll continue to talk to this author again. Pick up her book, Rebalancing the Addictive Mind. We're coming back live here on Restoring Hope Live. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. Love this job. Couldn't do it without you. Right here on RestoringHopeLive.com.
mother who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Dateline, Fairfax, Virginia, September 5th, 2001. As I wandered around the grounds of Fairfax Hospital in Virginia after a cabbie had dropped me off, I was dragging a duffel bag, suffering from withdrawals, limping because of an old knee injury that was acting up again. I'm stopped by a random guy who asked if I need help. I thought, God, I must look even more pathetic than I feel. He offers to carry my duffel bag. Why would you do that, I ask. Well, you look like you could use some help. Yep, that sums it up, she said. Well, get used to it. Come on, follow me. He picks up my duffel bag and starts walking towards the detox ward. Oh, by the way, he says, I'm Dr. Elder. I'm going to be your physician. With that, day one of my recovery began. Tell me what your mind was going, what your mind was racing through that day when you finally decided to self-admit that you had a substance abuse problem, Shelley, and you needed to do something about it.
Well, I was scared. I think that scared was probably the biggest thing. Frightened, fear of the unknown. I felt just physically sick, and of course, a lot of shame and guilt. I really just couldn't. How could I have become this? How could my life have sunk this low? And I had no idea what was going to happen in the future. It was it was not pleasant, to say the least. What event that you can share with us caused you to that day take that cabbie to that detox center? Because you weren't in trouble with the law. You know, I always say you can always tell an alcoholic because we're either in trouble with the law, our lover, or our liver.
And in your case, it wasn't any of those three.
Well, little did I know my liver was a problem at that time. But what the catalyst really was, I had suicidal ideation and couldn't understand what was going on. I had this moment of clarity and thought, well, maybe I'm just an alcoholic. That is perhaps a manageable problem. But what had kind of pushed me even to that point, I think, was that my sister was getting married at the end of September 2001, and I needed to travel from Virginia to California and be the maid of honor. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm a mess. So something has to happen. And I think that helped really get the ball rolling. It was, as miserable as I was, and as much as I hated myself in my life, I still needed an external motivator, I guess. And that was it.
You were not going to show up at your sister's wedding as the maid of honor in front of your parents and everybody else and not have physical and emotional control over yourself.
Yeah, exactly that. And actually, I didn't think I could. I mean, I was shaking, sweating. I was having severe withdrawal symptoms in the middle of the night, panic. I'd have to get up at 3 a.m. just to start guzzling vodka. I knew I couldn't do that at home in my family's house, and certainly I would not make a good presentation, otherwise, as far as, being at a wedding and being able to, I was a miserable drunk the entire, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There was no way I could do the wedding. Just
Were
couldn't
you
do it.
withdrawing from the alcohol or the drugs as well?
Well, in June of 2001, I stopped doing drugs because I didn't really have any money, but it was more because I was frightened. So this is the crazy thing. In the end, I have suicidal ideation, but in September. But in June, I stopped using drugs because I'm afraid something really bad's going to happen, like an overdose.
Yeah.
So that was the last time I did drugs was that June.
Now, Lila, it sounds to me like, and I reset here, Shelley Poerio is her name, spelled Poerio. Her book is Rebalancing the Addictive Mind, Beating Addiction with Exercise and Nutrition. You did go through the 12-step program, which you apply today and each day. But, Lila, she seems... and I'm going to talk about her right in front of her, but she seems very level-headed. I mean, she knew she had 30 days to figure this out before her sister and mom and dad might be embarrassed by her actions as an alcoholic. She figured out a couple months before that so that she just had to be done with the drugs because they were just ruining her. She's pretty conscious of her situation and issues. That isn't really the case when most people come to the bottom, hit the bottom.
I think if you were to ask her, it probably wasn't that clear back then, but all of it.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, when we look back, we can piece together our lives much better after we've learned what we need to learn, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's what was happening, and you can just piece it together a little better. But I imagine back in the day, it was just, she felt like everyone else when you come into treatment. You're very confused. Life isn't working. You don't know exactly what you have to do, but you do know that it's not working.
Now, Shelley, when you told your parents and your sister that you had quit drinking and gone into a treatment center before the wedding, were they surprised? Were they relieved? Did they say, oh, we knew you'd get there sooner or later? Or did they say, oh, not you, honey. I can't believe that's you.
Well, they had been, if we go back to 1993, that was my first attempt, really, at sobriety, my first real attempt where I went to a treatment at becoming clean and sober. And they were very much behind me. Everyone was on board and helped me. And of course, I relapsed about a year later. So this time, and of course, now this time I'm across the country, and in 2001, and I let them know. And I think there probably was a sense of relief, but also disappointment that, oh, wow, she's been lying to us this whole time. And so they were happy, of course, that I was going to get the help I needed. also disappointed. And I had kind of, I don't want to say that I burned bridges, but as Lila knows, I mean, the families, they're not going to put their necks out again and get burned. And I think they were at that point.
Did they know that you had relapsed?
I don't know that they did because I think I hit it pretty well in the mid-'90s. And of course, you know, I kept getting better jobs and such, and to a point, of course. But I don't know that they were fully aware. They certainly weren't aware of the degree of the problem, if they were aware of the problem. And then I got another good job, but I was transferred to Washington, D.C., so they never had to see me, and, you know, I didn't have to call when I was really drunk or high or anything. So it was, you know, it's pretty easy to hide from 3,000 miles away.
Yeah. What industry were you in, by the way?
I was I was a brokerage principal at the time. I was a securities principal, muni bond principal, a registered rep, stockbroker.
High-end, white-collar job.
Yeah.
How many of your fellow coworkers were heading down the same path you were?
Well, it's hard to say because, you know, we always want to project that that's the person over there that has the problem, not me. But you know, at the time, there was a lot of heavy drinking going on, at least in my circle, you know, the employees that I knew. So there was a lot of heavy drinking, a lot of partying, drug use.
I also think that, you know, the higher up you climb, the less suspicious people think, you know. It's like they couldn't be that successful and have a drug problem or an alcohol problem unless they're with you and see a lot of it. But I know a lot of people that hide behind that title.
Yeah.
Yeah, a perfect example of that exactly is that people at work maybe necessarily wouldn't know, except, you know, behaviors over time become more erratic, and you're more emotional and react kind of poorly to stressful situations. But I recall at one point a friend asking me, well, what was your drinking like before it got bad? And I said, oh, before it got bad? Oh, you know, after work, having between, I don't know, going down the bar and having like 6 to 10 vodka drinks. And they're like, that was before it got bad? And I said, yeah, what planet are you from? Like, doesn't everybody do this?
Yeah, doesn't everybody do this? That is such a common theme of people who finally get into treatment. They are amazed that people can actually have one drink or not even finish one drink and say, you know, I've had enough. I don't like that feeling of my brain being diluted with alcohol. But it seems those of us who are addicts, when we begin to get that feeling, we take our right foot and we floor the car and we go as fast as we can to getting intoxicated.
I remember when I had to admit I was alcoholic, and I had quit for 3 years, but I wouldn't say the words that I'm an alcoholic at that point. And I remember a counselor in a group I was at said, what would happen if you went to a party and there was lots of drinking? I said, well, if I was drinking, I would look in the mirror before I leave and say several times, you can only have 3 drinks, you can only have 3 drinks, you can only have 3 drinks, and then I'm okay. And I remember him looking at me, and he said, do you think normal people do that?
Yeah.
And I was just floored. It was like, you mean they don't? And that was the first night I admitted. I said, well, I guess I'm an alcoholic. I could feel that burning sensation go through my body. It was like the truth we know now.
The blind spot in Corey's box.
Yeah.
I want to read another little segment from Shelley's book before we hit the next break. How the addiction electrician rewires our brains. There are 4 major circuits involved in addiction. Understand that any brain circuit is reinforced by repetitive use. That means that neurons that fire together wire together. By the way, I can't take credit for that nifty little quote. I've read it in as many journals and books, but it just conveys a memorable image. That the more you put in to make yourself feel better, Shelley, the more dysfunctional the brain becomes. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely it. You're changing the way your brain works. You're changing the chemical structure. You're changing how, receptors in the synapses, how all of that works. And it adapts. I mean, if you think about guys or girls who lift weights and work out and exercise, I mean, you're doing repetitive things so that you become better and better at something. And in a way, addiction is just the opposite. It's the negative of that, where you're continuing to reinforce certain patterns so that they just become automatic. So it physically changes the brain. And obviously you get stuck in certain behavior patterns then too, and rituals. So, it's a death spiral.
Yeah, it really is, because the brain doesn't know what it's doing, but it's doing it to itself.
Yeah, and the flood of dopamine and some of the other chemicals. I mean, the dopamine is basically saying we get a rush of dopamine from all of these psychoactive drugs, and including alcohol, of course. And what dopamine is reward and motivation, and basically says, hey, that was great, let's do that again. Yeah. Hey, that's great, let's do that again. And the more you do it, you get this, obviously, this vicious cycle.
So in September of 2001, Shelley finally, after kicking her drug habit, she then kicked her alcohol habit. But her body wasn't back yet. So Shelley did something that makes her uniquely wonderful, and that is she wrote a book about rebalancing the addictive mind, and that's the book we're looking at. And when we come back, page 38, in a nutshell, why exercise? Why so important to exercise? Lila's here, Ryan's here, Shelley's here, and I'm Mac, and I'm thankful you're here at RestoringHopeLive.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money-back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
All right, we're back. Our special guest live from Las Vegas, Nevada, is Shelley Poerio. I say it slowly so I get it right. Poerio, Shelley. The name of the book is Rebalancing the Addictive Mind. She has been drug and alcohol free since the 5th day of September in the Lord's year 2001. So 13 years ago. Now, Lila, you're at 28 years.
Yeah.
I'm just a little over 4.5 years. But we're all sitting on the edge of what we know could be not only a relapse, but our last relapse. And we all have tools, things that we do. Lila, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but is incredibly involved with our community of 500,000 people who go to meetings and who go to aftercare meetings. And Lila is probably the one person's phone number that's in everybody's book, who to call when there's a female out there having problems. I'm a spiritual guy. I'm a Jesus freak. That's what helps me to stay sober every day. You, Shelley, both have the 12-step programs, and you have a spiritual side to you, but you also added exercise. And that's the topic of her book, Rebalancing the Addictive Mind, Beating Addiction with Exercise and Nutrition. And I want to just quote here from page 38. In a nutshell, here's what happens. Exercise. It helps put your brain chemicals back in balance. It helps you stay healthier, heal faster when you were sick or injured. Simultaneously rebalances your happy neurotransmitters. This relieves depression, stress, and anxiety. It also enhances mood, self-esteem, and confidence. It can change you for life, for the better. Reduce your loneliness and isolation and make you a happier, more socially involved person. Shelley, did you know these things about exercise when you were using and drinking?
No, I guess I didn't. I mean, I always felt better when I worked out, and I think that what happened was that over time, as alcohol and drugs took over my life, I didn't really miss the exercise that much, again, because a lot of those same neurotransmitters and reward kind of patterns were being stimulated, but they were being stimulated with drugs and alcohol and not through positive, actions like exercise. So I didn't know that, and I didn't even know it in early recovery. In fact, I went on the food bandwagon right away. I put on 40 pounds in early recovery. I mean, it was crazy, and I honestly, I didn't even notice that I had gained all that weight. It's just weird because you say, well, didn't you look in the mirror? Didn't your clothes get tighter? The answer is yes to all of that. But I felt so much better about myself, because I wasn't drinking and using, that I wasn't looking at the shell, at the outside. I was looking, I guess, more at the inside. And it took me some time to recognize that exercise and eating right were actually going to help a lot with my recovery and make recovery easier. And as I got farther into my period of sobriety, several years in, I started exercising more, and I thought, wow, it just feels like a lot of other problems are kind of going away, that life is easier to handle, that I look better, that I feel happier and healthier. And I started doing a little research to see if it was just me or if maybe there was something to all of this.
Yeah, in your 8th chapter of your book entitled Rebalancing the Addictive Mind, the 8th chapter is entitled Starved by Addiction, Hooked on Food. And I love the paragraph on page 121 that says, one of the most harmful effects of chronic alcohol and drug use is to alter the body's ability to absorb and process nutrients. The result is malnutrition. These psychoactive substances alter the body's ability to absorb and process nutrients, and in many cases, the user simply can't eat or is prone to eating junk foods. Here is how some drugs and alcohol result in nutritional deficits and body-mind degradation. And you go through alcohol, and you go through marijuana, and you go through opiates and stimulants. And girlfriend, you really, really did your research, and I'm so thankful. Because this book is not a hard book to read, but you got to be smart to read it, and I'm not smart, So I had to work at it pretty good, and luckily Shelley highlighted some things for me so I could go through it. But you really have done an excellent job of taking us from addicted to recovery to amazing.
You know, I want to ask you
Thanks,
something,
Mac.
Shelley. Where you work, do they concentrate on exercise and nutrition?
Well, I think that kind of what prompted me to want to write the book too was that with after my research and some of the experiences that I had with with a program that was first voluntary and then kind of became a regular program at the Phoenix House in Arlington, Virginia, was that I think that exercise or fitness and diet need to be emphasized with the same vigor with which we stress the 12-step programs and sober support.
Too. I really think so, and I know I don't push back at our hospital because the inpatient people can't leave the hospital to go do anything, and the doctors don't want to be responsible for them. But the outpatient people, to me, it's like there's no reason why they can't get out, even during the day, why they're there for 8 hours, why they can't get out, at least walk around the hospital or do something, and besides just sit and listen to people all day long. It really, it's like it's not teaching them anything. I know Betty Ford and Hazelton do have exercise as part of their recovery program.
Well, I think programs have exercise, not to the degree that I would want it, of course, but they do at least have some, exercise where they allow folks to, go to a gym or something a couple, 3 days a week or have yoga and that kind of thing. And that's great, but I don't think it goes far enough.
What would be your recommendation? Like, how long every day, or what kind of exercise would you want to see people doing?
Well, I would want to have a educational, focus, as well as the physical side of things. So we want to teach folks in recovery why should they exercise, and why should they eat right? How does it help their recovery? Because otherwise, it just sounds like your mom telling you to eat right and go exercise.
Yes.
So there's that, and I would say that I don't see a reason that they shouldn't work out five times a week. Now, when I say work out, that of course is very. It depends on what level that person is at, but 50 minutes to 60 minutes, which includes, a warm-up, some stretching, a little aerobic work, a little strength training, and a cool-down. And maybe that aerobic workout is walking on a treadmill for 10 minutes. It doesn't need to be Olympic or, kind of effort. It just needs to be something more than what they're doing now, which is sitting on the couch.
Yes. Yeah.
Our guest today is. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that in a lot of these treatment centers too, they're sitting in groups all day, which is good. They need that. But an hour a day, 5 days a week, I think would make all the difference in the world.
Yeah, me too.
Maybe, Lila, we should get like eucalyptus. No, not eucalyptus. What's that machine called, Shelley? The bike stand up, move your.
The elliptical or.
Yeah, elliptical. Maybe we should have aerodynes and ellipticals in our aftercare meetings. So while we're dumping all this stuff out of our brains, we could be working on our muscles and our bodies.
Oh, I love it.
Seriously.
I know.
I mean, all right, we're going to take our last break, and when we come back, and Shelley, I was so pleased. Well, first of all, you're a delight to talk to. The first time you and I talked, I think we talked for 30 minutes, and I wanted to call you several times as I went through the book, but the thing that I really found wonderful about you and this book comes on page 159 of, this is about a 200-page book, 206-pound-page book, and the chapter role starts as the role of forgiveness in recovery. And you highlight how important it is to, to process not an event and to get rid of some of those resentments. We're going to talk about that part of the book and learn more about Shelley when we get back. Her name, Shelley Poerio. She's an author. She's a fitness freak. And most importantly, she is a recovering addict and alcoholic of 13 years, and she'll share her story with you. We'll continue next on Restoring Hope Live.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, we're back. We sure appreciate you spending some time with us on this gorgeous Sunday evening all across the American Family Radio Network. And we've introduced you to somebody that I think you ought to have her book on the nightstand. And by the way, I'm not into selling books for people. You probably know that because we don't do a lot of authors. We do a lot of really smart people who have figured out some really important stuff, and they somehow figured out how to write it down and share it with us. Now, I'm an auditory sharer, if you didn't know. I could share my life with you, and we could sit for hours, probably days, especially if we were in a car or on a trip. But I don't write very well. And Shelley has the unique gift and talent to not only be able to auditorily share her story with us, which she's done for the last hour, but most importantly, she documented it in this book, Rebalancing the Addictive Mind, Beating Addiction with Exercise and Nutrition. And in this 200 and some page book, it's an easy read. She gets to the most important thing, I think, in really staying sober. Doesn't have much to do with getting sober. Doesn't have much to do with getting thin, but it has a lot to do with staying sober and wanting to be the best you can be. And it's called The Role of Forgiveness in Recovery. And you go through your very important spirituality of forgiveness. And why do we forgive? We forgive because we're letting those people live rent-free in our head, and we're feeding ourselves poison thinking it's going to hurt them. And Shelley, and you don't have to mention names, but who were some of the most difficult resentments that you had to get over to keep yourself clean, sober, and very athletically fit all these years?
Well, I think that the biggest resentments I had were toward myself. It's kind of difficult. The fact that, I mean, there were other people and things that happened, and I resented my family for a while for not believing that this time was going to be the last time. Why would they believe that?
Yeah, really.
I didn't give them any evidence to believe that. So I had those kinds of resentments. But I think that as far as forgiveness was concerned, the biggest issue was in forgiving myself and understanding that it was not a moral failing that caused my addiction, that I bear responsibility now that I'm clean and sober. As soon as we're clean and sober and that stuff's out of our heads, we bear 100% responsibility. But it is a disease, a brain disease, and I needed to accept that and forgive myself so that I could go on.
Yeah, and we so often talk about the most difficult resentment that we put on that fourth step is the final column is what role did we have in this? And what was our action that caused this resentment, this responsibility of relationship to fail, this job failure? And so many times, only after you get clean and sober and get far enough away do you realize that even 1% of the problem is half of the issue. And that's hard for people to realize. And I know that we talk about that in meetings, but I don't care if you're 99% innocent. That 1% makes you half the problem. And you need to step up and make those amends and begin to live a new life. And I would imagine, Shelley, because kind of like you, when I quit, I thought one of the reasons I wanted to quit, I didn't get in trouble with the law, the liver, or my lawyer. What was the other one? Yeah, lawyer. I wanted to lose weight, and I realized I was putting a lot of sugar in my body. Well, I quit drinking and gained 40 pounds.
You eat junk food. That's why. It's addictive.
Oh, yeah. See, Lila's like my mom. She thinks she knows everything about what I eat and what I don't do right. And it's true. When you do a radio show with somebody, you do get to know them intimately, but you have no idea how good those Whoppers are for me, Lila, especially when you get 2 for $5 and they put extra pickles on for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. So, Lila, what did you learn today? Because I really wanted to do this show not just for our audience and so they would know there's an awesome book out there that they can follow, but I also wanted to do it for you because I know this is one of your passions. So what did you learn?
That there are other people out there who think the same way I do and have some of the same problems. And so often we're out there fighting this fight thinking we're the only ones. And it is so comforting to me to listen to Shelley here. It's like, oh my gosh, here's somebody that had the same problem I did or do. And that she has so much knowledge about it. It just, to me, this is like a new frontier. And there aren't that many people. I mean, there are people out there talking about it, but not the connection to addiction. There are all these other people talking about nutrition, but a lot of those people don't understand addiction. And I feel like Shelley really understands how this is an addiction and how it feeds into your addictions and what is happening inside your body, to your brain, and that it affects your brain and how it's working and it affects your insides. It's just breathtaking to me. It's a relief to find somebody that I feel like finally understands me.
Well, and I don't know if you read the part of the book that I found interesting on page 87, Lila, Exercise for Non-Exercisers.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm not an exerciser. But, Shelley, you talk about different things here that get the heartbeat up. And, start eating away at the fat. And it doesn't have to be just one of the crazy guys on that machine and go round and round while I watch TV with headphones in my ears. You covered it really well.
Thanks. Yeah, you're exactly right. The one thing that I find is that people feel like they failed so often because of their addiction, and how many times you tell yourself you were going to stop using and you didn't, and how many times were you going to go do something and you didn't, etc. And so they're almost afraid to get started because they have this image of them having to, be an Olympic athlete, or that they're training for, NFL spring training, when really nothing could be farther from the truth. They just need to start where they are. And if that's, I talk about it, in the book, where I started off just, again, doing a couple of push-ups and a couple of sit-ups, 10 push-ups and 10 sit-ups a day for 2 weeks.
Well, and you even talk in here.
Getting back in shape.
You even talk in here about ping pong, air hockey, foosball, catch, a horse with a basketball, frisbee. These are not things that I would have considered. Ping pong to me is not exercise.
Depends how you play.
But it gets you out and you start getting active, and then you want more.
Yeah. Well, Lila, thanks for being on the phone with us today. How's that little beauty of yours doing? Is she sleeping, or is she watching Grandma on the radio?
She's sleeping because right before the show I took her around in the car so she'd go to sleep. So she's still in her snowsuit at about 100 degrees. Sleep.
Oh, all right. And Shelley, the book is Rebalancing the Addictive Mind. Go to Amazon.com and find it there. That's the easiest way, I would imagine. Rebalancing the Addictive Mind. And the author is Shelley, Poerio. And if you want to go to my Facebook page or Webcast One Live or Restoring Hope and contact me, I'll get you the contact information. Shelley, I love you. Thanks for being on the show. I look forward to having you back soon.
Thank you both so much.
Yeah, thank you, Shelley.
You bet.
Okay.
And as we sign off on this evening, remember what I always ask you to do. Think of somebody you need to forgive. Think of somebody that's living free between the 5 inches in your brain. You think you're poisoning them by not forgiving them. But as we learned in this book and we learn everywhere else, just ask for forgiveness, and it shall be granted to you. God loves you. Good night.